Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Industry Insights Series 2, Day 2, and we're on National Apprenticeship Week, which is a fantastic week to be running this Insights series. My name is Amanda Thompson. I'm the MD of Campus Media, and I'm joined today by 4 leading employers within the banking and finance industry, where we'll be putting a spotlight on this industry over the next hour. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our employers. We have Lloyds Banking Group, BDO, UBS and Aon. And I'm going to go straight over to you, Brad, to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brad, and I'm one of the business analyst apprentices working at Lloyds Banking Group. I'm currently undertaking the Level 4 Business Analyst apprenticeship scheme, and what we normally do in a day-to-day role is engage our senior stakeholders and communicate their requirements to software engineers, etc.
Thank you very much, Brad. So I'm Nicholas Manera. I am here to represent BDO, so I'm a manager. I started about 4.5 years ago in a company called Moore Stephens, actually, and then a couple months into my apprenticeship, we merged with BDO, so I actually did most of my training there. I'm in a department called IIDA, so International Institution and Donor Assurance. What we do essentially is that we work with organizations such like the United Nations, European Commission, foundation, government. They give money to organizations to fund projects, and we travel there to make sure they spend the money correctly, roughly. So I got the chance to travel to like 15, 20 countries already. BDO as a whole, so it's a professional services organization. It's split into 3 main streams. So there's the tax stream. So taxes for corporation, individuals, VAT, international tax, many different types of taxes. Then audit, which is essentially corporate audit. So for the people that don't know what corporate audit is, companies at the end of the year, they have to submit financial data to the government and their investors. So I mean, in simple term, how much money they made, what are the costs, what are the profit. And the auditors will then work with the company and make sure that whatever is in that document is roughly correct and nobody's lying, essentially. And a third stream is advisory, so everything that's not tax or audit. So my department falls under advisory, but you've got business outsourcing, merger and acquisition, and many other departments. And to let you know a bit more about the scheme, we've got a video coming up.
From hands-on experience to a great head start, our school leaver apprenticeships are perfect for young people who know what they want and how to get there fast. At BDO, we offer school leaver apprenticeships that allow you to get on-the-job experience, support your learning in real time, and accelerate your career progression. What's more, we'll pick up the bill, so you can avoid student debt entirely. You can be a fully qualified pro, earning a salary along the way, in less time than going to university and completing a graduate programme. Check out the most common apprenticeship pathways, from student life to the top of your game. Our school leaver qualifications are an awesome option. From accounting newbie to industry expert, qualified in just 4 years, earning while you learn. They offer a rewarding alternative to going to university, from leaving school to the fastest accountant qualification route. Some of the advantages include no student debt, earn a salary, develop your skills on the job. This is where it all begins. #life at BDO.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name's Louise Dell. I'm currently head of UK apprenticeships in the HR function at UBS. If you're not sure about UBS or what we do, we are a global investment bank with over 50,000 staff in lots of different regions. We're a world-leading wealth manager, which means we look after high net worth individuals, and we're a retail bank in Switzerland. So similar to how you would get retail banks here in the UK, we're a retail bank in Switzerland as well. I've been at UBS for 16 years in lots of different roles, but the role I currently do is the one I love the most. Here in the UK, we've got over 6,000 staff with apprentices in lots of our different divisions, and UBS are really passionate about junior talent. Just to show you a bit more, here's a video with some of our apprentices.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Sinclair, and I'm one of the early careers business partners at Aon. I recently only joined there in January, and I focus on the recruitment side. Aon, if you haven't heard of it, is about 50,000 employees in about 120 countries worldwide, and we're an investment insurance broking firm. We have about 50 apprentices roles a year we hire, and we have roles in corporate risk management, investment management, wealth management, and human capital solutions. And we even have an apprentice on our team, Leah, who's fantastic. Hi, Leah. Myself, I've been in early careers for 16 years. I've worked across many different industries: financial services, consulting, technology, manufacturing, engineering, aviation, just to name a few. So quite a lot of experience. My claim to fame is I wrote a book about effectively what not to do in the selection process. I won't plug the book. You can look it up online if you're really, really interested. And just a quick shout out to my son, Aidan, who I think is watching this video in the school. So hi, Aidan. And having completely ruined his street cred, I'm going to show a quick video, a bit more information about what Aon is and what it does.
Every day, big decisions are made without full information. Overloaded by data. Compounded by complexity.
Being blamed on this heat wave, and it's
Made in the dark. Without relevant insight and advice. Better decisions are made in the light. Full context, all the facts, with clarity and confidence. So organizations and the people they rely on are protected and able to grow. Aon is in the business of better decisions.
Thank you, everybody, for those introductions. That's fantastic. And you will have understood then from those introductions that the 4 companies that we're joined with today are completely different financial or banking institutions as well, companies. They offer very different roles and opportunities. So this next chat is going to be all about their individual opportunities, but also their advice on applications and things like that. So in terms of the chat, we want your questions coming in, so please do pop your names in there and start asking those questions. I'm going to also just make sure that the Careers Resources Pack is available. It details more information about today's employers. So in terms of your apprenticeship then, Brad, we know there's lots of misconceptions about the banking and finance industry. What attracted you to go into banking and finance and with Lloyds?
Yeah, so definitely. So I think there's still a little bit of a reputation that banks have at the moment, and any kind of like company in the finance sector. I think a lot of the times people associate banks and the finance sector to people obviously wearing suits in the city and working some mundane and some more boring tasks. However, that's completely not the case with Lloyds Bank. We have a culture which is really people orientated, and for joining a bank or a financial institution in a role like myself, being a business analyst, is more actually people orientated. So we communicate very effectively with our stakeholders. We understand what they need and their requirements, and we sort of deliver change based on obviously people we do, and we're always having our customers at focus there as well. So it's very much a people role.
And what is the apprenticeship that you're doing?
So the business analyst apprenticeship is where BAs like ourselves, it's all based around requirements. So we try to understand requirements that the business wants in things like gap analysis, and then we understand the future state of the business and where the business is currently, and we try and obviously move the business to the future state. So as you guys will probably already know, technology is a really, really big thing in business and in the finance institution at the moment. So some current projects we're working on, we're looking at how we can implement new technologies to prevent things like fraud, financial crime, etc., and how obviously we can gain a competitive advantage in the industry using new technology. So a business analyst is really at the centre of understanding those requirements and delivering that change.
That's great. And Brad, you're at the start of your apprenticeship journey now. I'm going to go over to Nicholas from BDO, because you're currently studying for your level 7 apprenticeship, is that right?
Well, so I completed it actually a year and a half ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So I joined as a grad, so I didn't do the school leaver scheme, but I did the apprenticeship level 7 as a grad scheme. The only difference really is that obviously when you start as a school leaver, you do the exact same thing in 4 years instead of 3 years. And then obviously not student debt, I guess. But so I did the ACA as part of the apprenticeship scheme is a scheme regulated by the government to make sure that all the other employers have quality. But alongside of that, I studied for the ACA, so the qualification for chartered accountant, which is 15 exams over 3 years or 4 years if you do the school leaver scheme.
And what were you instantly attracted to banking and finance? Was that the area you definitely knew you wanted to go into from leaving education?
No, well, to an extent, yes. I studied mathematics. I knew that's something I was interested in, but so the department I'm currently working in is technically finance because I've got an ACA, and for the most part I do financial audits, or grant audit I should say, but a lot of my job is actually not finance related. It's just meeting people around the world, understanding their projects. I think the most math I do is probably like multiplication, addition, proportions and so on, and Excel does most of the work for me. So I can't really in good faith say that my job is very finance heavy. But obviously there's a different type of jobs at BDO. So if you love finance and that's something you're interested in, there's obviously a department for you. But I think there's clearly a misconception about finance being every day, all day, just banking and just like the stock market or thing like that.
Great. And Louise, at UBS, so what are the different types of roles that you offer on the apprenticeship route?
Yeah, so we offer 2 different types of apprenticeship programme. So we offer the degree apprenticeships, which is essentially the same as the degree you would get if you went to university. But essentially you join UBS, you do your degree as your entry-level kind of qualification programme, but you learn on the job at the same time, but you come out with the degree you would get exactly the same. Or we do what's called an advanced apprenticeship programme. So they're slightly shorter. They're generally between 15 to 18 months, but you would still come out with a professional qualification as well. What's great about doing an apprenticeship is that you obviously learn on the role, but you also get 1 day a week to study as well. So, and we also put you into a cohort with other individuals. So we try to, I guess, emulate what you would also get at university. So you're not doing a training programme on your own. You're with a group of other individuals that have also just come out of school. So you're kind of going through that journey together. So you get the support, not just from, I guess, kind of your colleagues and your peers, but from the apprentices that are in that cohort with you as well. So yeah, lots of different programmes with lots of different opportunities.
Great. So that's the sponsored degree route. And Brian, at Aon, what are the programmes that you offer for apprenticeship level?
So a variety of different roles available across the business and across the locations all over the UK. We've roles in commercial and risk reinsurance, employee benefits, client management, also in human capital solutions and HR. Most of them are level 3 apprenticeships, but when you complete the apprenticeship, it is a full-time permanent role you're offered. You can go on, depending on your own career ambitions, to do level 6 or level 7 apprenticeships in your preferred area, should you wish to do it.
Great. And the first question in is, will I be in a customer-facing role? That's been aimed at Lloyds, actually, Brad. So somebody's asked if they will be, during their apprenticeship, will they be based in a bank in a customer-facing role?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Not necessarily, actually. For someone like myself, I actually work in an office, I do. So you're not necessarily always based in branch, you are. However, I think we do have some apprenticeships where you are. It really just depends on the kind of apprenticeship scheme you're going ahead with and what kind of role you're doing.
But client-facing roles, obviously, I'm sure the rest of the employers here, do your apprentices have the opportunity to do client-facing aspects of their role?
Yes, so of course. We have different apprenticeships which revolve you obviously mix in with clients in banks. So that could be our everyday personal customers. There's also some other apprentices who deal with SME customers, which stands for small medium enterprises, and also CBO, which is our commercial banking online customers, which are where apprentices will obviously work with big corporations worth £25 million and above. So it really does just depend on the role and obviously the apprenticeship you decide to go to.
And Brian, obviously COVID changed the world, everything went virtual, but business for a very long time has been client relationships over the phone, over email. Do your apprentices get to go out into the field, so to speak, and meet with clients?
Out into the real world. Yes, depending on the role. Some roles are like the client management role. You're normally in a call centre, it's traditionally what you call them, where we're answering calls with the customers and dealing with some of their issues or complaints and just help resolve them. And it's a great way to learn about what we do as an organisation. But we do operate in Aon smart working. But what that means is you choose the best way of working for you. The slight kind of caveat on that is that with apprentices, we do encourage them to be in the office about 3 days a week initially, just so they get that on-hand support in the office in the day. So if they're not quite sure what to do or how to do something, rather than trying to draft an email or trying to arrange a call, you can just turn to a colleague and say, hey, how do I do this? Or, hey, what is this? Can you help me with it? So that's normally 3 days a week. But as you build up in confidence, you can decide to flip that a bit more at home, depending on your home circumstances as well. But we do set you up to be able to work from home. But for the apprentices particularly, do expect them to be in the office about 3 days a week, just for their benefit. And then we do encourage for the team you're working for, they're also in the office to give you that support while there as well. So it's quite a healthy mix in Aon. I think it's a great way of working, the smart working. I really like it.
And Louise?
Yeah, it's the same. I'm nodding along because we generally do the same as well. I mean, UBS is very much in a hybrid working environment. But for our apprentices, we, very similar to Aon, we believe that actually the apprentices learn better when they're in the office. And, you know, I see them all going out for lunch together, which is really nice, that they've kind of got that little camaraderie together. But even when they're in, we actually have a HR apprentice in our team at the moment as well. So we make sure we have meetings with her every day. She's working on kind of live projects with the team. And yeah, I think it just helps when you can, like you say, turn to the person next to you and ask the question rather than sitting at home struggling on your own.
Great. Yeah. And you're nodding as well, Nicholas. I'm guessing you like being in the office.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I go almost every day. But I would say, yeah, we do the same principle. I mean, you tend to learn much faster, I would say, when you're in the office. But there is no like set number of days. I mean, each department will have different rules, and each location also might encourage you coming in or not. But we've got as well a buddy system, so at BDO. So when you join, you're obviously given a line manager. We'll look after your career and stuff. But you've got a buddy, which is essentially a person that's roughly a bit above your grade. So it's a bit more of, let's say, like a friend, colleague. So if you've got any question you want to ask a director or a senior person, you can just reach to them. And they usually help with the day-to-day, get you set up, and then make sure you're okay, essentially.
And during your, when you were doing your level 7, did you have release days where you had to be at university or do study days?
Yeah. So So because I did the ACA and it's 15 exams, so BDO's approach to this is you do a few exams at a time. So you will be given, sometime you'll have to go to college in person for certain exams. So essentially the hardest one, let's say. You go to college, so it can be a few days, it can be 2 weeks, study for the exams, and you go back to work, you've got a couple of weeks to study for it, then sometimes you have to go back again for revision and then you pass the exam. Some of them are self-study, so you would get X number of days that you can take before certain exam to study. So it's not like a strict 1 day a week where you're studying. It's more so whenever the exams are, you then obviously have to take a few days either to go to college or to study on your own.
Fantastic. Louise, I'm going to come to you regarding your sponsored degree programme as well, actually, because it is slightly linked. Do you work with a specific university to deliver that? And which university is that?
Yeah, so we work with the University of Exeter at the moment, and we offer two. So we offer the BSc in Applied Finance and also the BSc in Digital and Technical Solutions as well, because both of them, I think they're degrees which cover a real breadth of learning and skills that you need for lots of the different departments in UBS, especially with the DTS as well, because I think our group technology or our CDIO function is so wide, and there's so many different teams within that actually we find that having that degree covers lots of different parts of the organisation. So rather than just going down a stream, you can learn essentially the degree and then choose which area of specialism to go into afterwards as well. So we know there are certain areas at the moment like software engineering or cybersecurity, which might be really key and really relevant, especially in banking and finance. But rather than just have you specialise in one, we feel it's much better for individuals to kind of get a much broader degree and then choose which specialism they want to go into once they've got a better understanding, of the function and actually what they enjoy as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Brian, have you got anything to add in terms of obviously it's not a sponsored degree apprenticeship that you offer, but do your apprentices partner with certain colleges? Is that based location-wise, depending on which offices they're in?
So normally partner with the professional qualification organisation. So the Chartered Institute of Actuarials, the CFA, the FIA. So there's different organisations. So not necessarily with a college, but via the Professional Services Qualification Direct. Yeah.
Great, which obviously the ACA is one of those as well. Then Nicholas, that you did your masters through. So we've got a question in terms of dress code. I laugh about this because again, actually, all joking aside, COVID changed that as well. So people are quite intrigued. And again, it comes back to this stereotype about the banking and finance industry, probably more the banking side, actually. People have this misconception that everybody wears suits and, it's a certain type of person that goes into that industry. What's your thoughts on that, Brian?
Just dress for the day ahead, really. Wherever you're comfortable in, if you're going to be on a lot of internal calls, it's okay to be in an Aon branded hoodie. It's perfectly fine. We don't mind at all. You don't feel the need to be in a suit, shirt and tie all day. It will probably look a bit ridiculous if you're dialing in from your kitchen table and wearing a suit, shirt and tie anyways. So just dress for the day ahead. When you come into the office, it's generally kind of business casual. So a shirt and trousers for men, something fairly similar for the women. So there's no hard and fast rule. There's no real expectations. And if you want to wear brown shoes with your blue suit, that's entirely up to you. So no real guidance.
And Louise?
Yeah, I think ours is probably, I'd say, again, business casual. All of our apprentices would come into our London campus, which is at 5 Broadgate, and we do have a lot of clients that come into the office. So I think also take the guidance from your team. So if you work maybe in, the global banking organisation, you might be coming face to face maybe with clients, more so than if you worked in HR, for example. So I think take the lead from the team around you as well. But again, I would say probably for our apprentices, they actually quite relish getting dressed up and coming into an organisation, coming into a very smart office, actually wearing kind of business attire as well. So yeah, I think just to take the lead from obviously whichever organisation you go to and from the team that you work in.
And Nicholas, what's your thoughts? What do you prefer when you go into the office?
I would dress something like this, really. We've got, similar, where it's dress as your day, so if you don't see any clients, you don't have to dress up much. I usually wear a suit when I go to clients, wherever in the world that is. I've had some clients to tell me not to dress up in a suit if their policy at their company is to not wear a suit. But when I started, I just asked my buddy, and they were able to let me know. But it's very relaxed, I would say. Not as formal as people think.
And Brad, any different at Lloyds?
Just to echo exactly what everyone else has said, it's very much dress for your day. Obviously, if you were working in a client-facing role, you probably would wear a suit, but if not, you can just wear, obviously, something that's smart, casual even some of the times as well.
Great. I'm probably a little bit more old school than that, but I personally think dressing smarter can help you project yourself better as well and project yourself more professionally. So if you are going out, you're meeting clients, you feel great in yourself, you feel more confident, and it's all helps for that performance as well and how you do. So in terms of just going on slightly from that as well, people want to know what the culture is within your organisations. Is it formal? I'll head straight back down to you, Brian.
So I'm only recently in Aon in about a month, and my first impressions are, and I don't mean this in a negative way, people are just normal. I've it's quite a flat structure, there's no hierarchy. I sit near the kind of executive area and you wouldn't really know. If you need something, you ask a colleague to do it, it's their job to do it, they just do it. And similarly, if I get asked to do something, it's my job to do it, I do it. There's no, I'll do that last because you're more junior to me or you're not that important. There's none of that at all. What I've seen so far, everyone's quite receptive, everyone's quite helpful. We all work together. We have this whole Aon United thing internally, which is just great. It's a really nice environment to be in, where if you're asking what you might think is a silly question, there is no such thing as a silly question. People are just super, super supportive, keen to help you just get a job done, because we're all in this together, delivering for each other, delivering for the company, delivering for our clients. So I think the culture is quite normal. People are just really, really friendly and helpful. And I've enjoyed it so far.
And Louise, so at UBS, how do you support not only your apprenticeships, but all of the employees there to help bring their true selves to work and be who they want to be?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think especially for our school leavers, UBS are very focused not just on our kind of objectives and what we're trying to achieve in terms of kind of our pillars and our principles, but we're hugely focused on our behaviours as well. And I think as part of that, it's also about bringing your whole self to work. But for the school leaver piece, essentially, we are very mindful that transitioning from school to the workplace is a huge change, and a lot comes with that. So very similar, when our school leavers join us, they have obviously their line manager, but they also have a mentor, they have a buddy, they have someone in my team who's their program manager, they will have an academic skills coach or support from whether it's the university or the training provider that they work with as well. So I think even just little things from when you first come in, we do regular check-ins, so 30, 60, 90 days to make sure they're well supported. As I said, we make sure they work in a cohort together as well. But even within UBS, we have lots of support for them. So, employee assistance programs, there's an on-site GP, we've got HR advisory on the phone. So any struggle they come across, there is somebody there to support them as well. And as I say, I think the transition from, leaving school where you feel really confident and probably quite comfortable in your environment to then walking into that office for the first day can be quite challenging. So we'll make sure there's enough support around them. And even little things like helping them to know how to send an email or how to address, maybe a senior person in the office, or how to deal with your colleagues around you as well. I would just say we recognise that is quite a big hurdle to overcome, and there's plenty of support in place for them.
Great. And Nicholas, so in terms of the the support communities that you've encountered whilst at BDO. What is that like, the work culture and the support communities that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt quite welcome at BDO, really. The team is lovely. We've got, so this buddy system, we've got well-being, we've got social committee as well, so to make sure that people can catch up in person very frequently outside of work. But I think it's when you start at a company, you think that people are here to test you to whatever. But if you think about it, the company is investing in you. So they're not trying to set you up for failure, really. So if you've got any issues, there's always somebody to reach out, whether in your team or if you don't want to reach out to somebody in your team, there's always somebody that you can reach out to for assistance, really.
Great. And mental well-being is huge. And I know lots of organisations have different practices in place to support colleagues. Is this something that you're able to talk a little bit more about from Lloyds Banking Group, Brad?
Exactly that. At Lloyds Banking Group, we do have a very big emphasis on obviously looking after your mental health and also growth as well and learning as a whole there. Every couple of weeks, you'll have the opportunity to take some time away from your desk and just obviously to step away and focus on your mental health, whether that be obviously doing some meditation or getting involved in some other activities too. So there's a hub of support, there's ample opportunity for you to really engage with some of the programmes we have at Lloyds Banking Group for that. Also, I would just like to touch upon one of the great things about Lloyds Banking Group and their culture, and that's their really big emphasis on learning and growth it is. Every couple of weeks, again, we have the opportunity just to step away and actually learn something outside of the apprenticeship scheme. So it really does just help with that continuous professional development too.
And do you have social activities outside of work as well, where a lot of your apprenticeship cohorts get together?
Exactly that as well. It was only a couple of weeks ago when I was with some of my other colleagues who were also apprentices at the time, and we all went out for lunch then, and we done some things in the evening too. So exactly that. And also at Lloyds Banking Group, you'd be put into a team, so a feature team some of the time. So obviously if you're with a team there, you have the opportunity to go out, socialise with your team and really just get to know your colleagues better on a much more personal level.
Great, and I got a specific question in for you as well, so I'm going to stay to you before I head back down the line. So from your apprenticeship, what is your plans on, do you have plans for further qualifications? What do you expect to come out after your apprenticeship?
So really, really good question again. For me specifically, I'm quite interested in progressing to a degree apprenticeship and sort of furthering my own professional self by doing something like that. So at the end of this programme, I'll probably obviously go to some of our HR guys we've got at Lloyds and just ask them what other kind of apprenticeships they've got going on. I know that there's in the past there's been a couple of apprentices that have been able to join grad schemes as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for learning and development there.
We heard from Lloyds yesterday actually on the technology event, and we had a sponsored degree apprentice on there, and I believe your apprenticeships go all the way up to level 7. So. And in terms of support groups, so we've got a specific question in about LGBTQ+. Yes, the answer is yes, every organisation hires people who are LGBTQ+, but how do you make them feel welcome and have that community within your organisations? And I'll go down the line to you, Brian.
Sure. So our application process is open and inclusive. We do track the information for reporting purposes, but it's not used as part of the selection process. So we do encourage you to mention anything to do with that. That's just fantastic. In the organisation, a very open and inclusive culture, and we have what we call employee resource groups, ERGs, and these are groups within the organisation that are set up and run by people who are from various different backgrounds, various different kind of interests. And one of them is LGBT plus group, support group. And whether you join it as a member of that community or as an ally like myself, you can do things like that. So it's really encouraging to see people who are applying, bringing that, as Louise said earlier on, your whole self, your authentic self, and you'll be welcomed in Aon. I'd hate to think not. And when you can get involved in these communities, either as a member of the community or an active member part of the committee as well, or as an ally. So it is very encouraging the selection process. and very encouraging when you join the organisation as well to be your whole self.
Has anyone else got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'd just say exactly the same. I mean, a totally open and inclusive recruitment process. We have the same, so we have employee networks within UBS, probably covering every range of different type of network that you could cover. Again, you can either join to represent yourself, you can be an ally, you can just join because you like to go along and kind of listen to talks and things like that as well. I think, again, I would hope that in the banking and finance industry, as well as every other industry, I think everything is very open and inclusive. And again, we are very focused on this bring your whole self to work, and that's very much supported.
Whilst I've got you there, somebody specifically asked, how competitive are degree apprenticeships? So I'm going to just direct that one straight to you, Louise.
Yeah, of course. So we hire, so across all of our apprenticeships, so the degree and the advanced, we hire probably around 40 apprentices every year. The majority of them, I would say, go into the degree apprenticeships as well. So we probably have, I'd say, kind of 25. It is competitive. What I would say is, obviously, we have kind of a minimum requirements in terms of the A-level results that you need. So, that's kind of a flat recruitment process piece that you have to look at. When you're thinking of joining, not just UBS, but I'd say any organisation, think about the things that will make you stand out on your CV. So if there are, extracurricular activities that you get involved in, it might be the thing that you think is not very important. So you might captain your football team, you might lead a debate team at school. I think one of our apprentices came up with an amazing entrepreneurial Instagram account about a football team that he supported. I mean, there's all types of different things that you could bring. I would say everyone is coming in on the same level from a results equivalent, but think about what makes you unique. Think about what's important to the organisation you want to go to. So for UBS, for example, we look at things like innovation, challenge, integrity. What have you done at school? What do you maybe do outside of school? That will just bring that to life. Because if you obviously hopefully get through the interview process and get to assessment centre, they're the types of questions that you will be asked as well. It's not just about how well can you do the role or the programme. It's what can you bring to the organisation. And actually, I'd say that's probably more important. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Great, thank you. I could see you nodding away there, Nicholas. So what do BDO look for in their apprentices?
Ooh, tricky question. In terms of so the result, I think it's 5 or above in math and English, and then 3 A-level above C, which is essentially the flat requirements you need to be able to apply. But on the basis that all of the other candidates that are going to apply have at least these results, this is essentially where you need to stand out in, as you say, things you like. And it's quite complicated to say exactly what we need, because essentially each department would be looking for different people. So if you've got a second language, for instance, that's something that could give you an edge as well, even in finance, when you think, well, actually, they speak English and already, what am I going to do with my second language? You might be able to work with clients around the world, and your second language would be obviously greatly appreciated. I would say curiosity as well, like being willing to learn, because for the most part, you will know close to nothing really when you start, and I knew nothing when I started, but just willing to learn, willing to help the team, and then be curious.
Thank you. And I think a knowledge of the company goes a huge way as well. When you're making your application, really research the company that you're applying to. And I appreciate you're probably doing lots of applications, and copying and pasting can be our worst nightmare sometimes. So really research the company that you're applying to, tailor your application, make sure you understand their values as well, and that they sound genuinely like a company that you'd like to be part of. Can I
add on that? Yeah, I had a great tip. Something I did when I applied actually is that I reached out to people that had left the company on LinkedIn to ask them about the day-to-day, because we appreciate that some of the job in finance is quite unclear what the day-to-day is actually. So I reached out to know what the day-to-day is to people that had left for two reasons. First of all, I didn't want people in the office to discuss, oh, that guy reached out to me, what do we think about that guy? Because most of the process is anonymized anyway, so I didn't want to tell people I had applied before, but also because they'll be able to let you know why they left. And that could be a good insight as to whether the company is actually doing what they say they're doing at their website. Essentially why people left is also quite an interesting piece of information to have about the company and whether you want to work for them.
I mean, that's a great piece of advice there. And I actually, on that, understanding what the day-to-day job is going to be is really important. Again, we're dealing with a lot of misconceptions about what it will be working in banking and finance. Lots of people think it's all about wearing a suit, working in a high-pressured environment and handling money. And what's your thoughts on that, Brad, in terms of what is your day-to-day job? Do you have to count money?
Yes, another really good question. Every job really does vary. It does across finance, as you would have heard from the other guys as well speak. The jobs do really obviously vary, and every day-to-day job can be different depending on where you work and also where the area you work in. In HR, obviously you're more likely much more to deal with people you are and look at the people aspects of things, whereas in financial markets you'd be more likely to obviously deal with money and look at obviously currency exchanges and so forth there. So it really does just depend on the role you apply for and the specific area you're in. From talking from a Lloyd's perspective, it really does just vary, but I know that a lot of the people that I've been able to get to know from the scheme, we all usually tend to work in a corporate setting. We do in an office, so it's not necessarily being in that specific branch role, which a lot of people misconcept working in a bank for, and it's not really even dealing with money too much. It's more just knowing what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then just bringing that to your job, and you can really obviously gain some fantastic results by doing that.
Great. And Brian, what would you say is a typical day-to-day job outline of what your apprentices are doing?
I've really got not much of an idea. So there's so many different things. I think one of the things Aon does is try to guide other companies through, what we have as a volatile, unpredictable marketplace anyway. So I think to sit down and think your day job is set kind of number of tasks, etc. I think that's probably to do with this service. I think it's a bit more interesting than that, to have a little bit of variety in your day job, a little bit of uncertainty. I'm sure you've got your core tasks that kind of you'll get set by a manager to get done by a certain point, not just your training and development, but there will be things that get kind of offered and opportunities that come your way and different challenges. And there's the kind of things that really get to prove your worth and your ability to do it. So I would flip that and say, what can you do to bring yourself to work and really show your boss you really are a good apprentice, not just an average and doing okay and just ticking the boxes and getting the job done. How do you really show you are someone who's to be watched because you're going to go places and get up the corporate ladder? So really kind of show how to differentiate yourself in the day job and not just constantly looking for the work to be given to you. Be proactive. I used the analogy earlier on of my son, if I asked him to empty the dishwasher and he came back in and he just emptied it, no offence Aidan, and he'd thought it was brilliant. I would go, well, in the world of work I would expected you to empty the dishwasher, perhaps look at what's in the sink and reload it, maybe wash a few things as well, and just look at that general area and not just carry out the specific task I asked you to do, but be kind of proactive enough and use that kind of curiosity and creativity and innovation to then think, what else could I do to fill this kind of wider task without having your manager to ask you every time to do every tiny little thing. So show that innovation and that kind of unique kind of skill to the organisation, and that's what will get you noticed and progress. I think there's a big difference between someone who's a good worker and someone who's good to work with. So make sure you're getting out there, getting noticed, and then hopefully getting progressed.
Thank you. I'm going to rattle through the questions now because there's so many and we're down to our last 15 minutes. So we've had a location-specific question come in. So we have some students in South Dartmoor watching and they are wanting to know if their opportunities are just based in London or you offer opportunities in the Southwest as well. I'm going to start with you, Brad.
Yeah, so again, really good question. So what I can definitely say working for Lloyds Bank is that we have various offices all around the country. So you wouldn't necessarily just have to work in a London office. Of course, certain jobs would require you to work in a London office because they're only based there. But again, as long as you can just evaluate your own strengths and your weaknesses, and then you just pick an area of the business which you're interested in, there should be a selection of different offices. I know for my role specifically, we got the option out of Edinburgh. So obviously, if you're closer up north, it might have been better to go to Edinburgh, and obviously down south where London was also an option. So again, there's a variety of different locations.
Nicholas, are you aware of the different BDO locations?
Well, there are 18. Don't quiz me
18.
with that UK geography as an immigrant. But yeah, so 18 different locations. Most of the jobs are available in all locations. I know that mine might be the only one that's only available in London, only because it's a rather small team, which is only in London. But yeah, when you apply through the website, you can choose the location. And yeah, so 18 to choose from.
And Louise?
Yeah, we're probably not as widely spread, I would say. So our main office is in London. So most of our apprenticeships do run out of London. I think we have had some apprentices that have been able to relocate to maybe some of our slightly smaller areas, but most of the team are based in London. So that's generally where we hire to.
And Brian?
So to separate out, we have Aon has offices all over the UK, similar to BDO, but where the roles are may not be in all the offices. So we have things like I think Brad said, we've got Edinburgh and Glasgow, we've got Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, St Albans. We've also got London, of course, and we've got Epsom and Farnborough, kind of just south of London, and then Bristol as well. But I'm not sure all those offices offer apprentice locations. So have a look at the website, as we said earlier on, do your research. And if there's a role in the location you're looking for and you like the role as well, then of course apply.
And locations change as well based on how many apprentice roles that employers have got within their different locations, and that will change. So organisations that promote their apprenticeship schemes all year round, for example, their locations may change depending on when they've filled certain roles. So the facts pages on most employer websites usually has a location covered question in there. So always have a look on there. And just when you're searching for your apprenticeships in general, you can usually search, if you're using an apprenticeship search site, you can usually search by location and do it that way. But that said, it's not always the exact locations as well, because some organisations that are UK-wide might not necessarily list those specific. We've answered the specific universities where people need to be based at for degrees. Typical starting salary. And obviously, we are dealing here with organisations that have different levels of apprenticeships all the way through as well, and depending on the level of apprenticeship will vary in salary. Would any of you like to disclose those starting salaries for apprenticeships?
I think ours is on our website. I think it's, I think from memory, it's 21 for most roles and 22 for London. But that's your starting salary, depending on how you progress to the apprenticeship and onwards to your qualification, etc. That can go, yeah, quite a lot more.
Yeah, I think our starting is a little higher than that. What I would say is we are competitive with other kind of banking, well, other investment banks as well. So I would just say, again, do your research, go through the application process, but yeah, roughly around the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the number, I don't know it myself, but I think it varies across, obviously if you're in London or if you're in the rest of the country, just because London, cost of living. But yeah, it's also competitive, yeah.
Yeah, so just like the other guys were saying, Lloyds is also very, very competitive. I know, obviously, looking around at the different apprenticeships available, not just in finance, they usually tend to start at around 22,500, and they can even go up to about 35,000, especially in finance. So definitely worth applying.
Great. Gosh, so many questions now to get through. Do I need LinkedIn at this stage, do you think? So, LinkedIn is a great tool. There are lots of great websites out there that will help you in your research into finding the right organisation, the right cultural fit within an organisation for you. And LinkedIn is just one of those fantastic platforms where companies do talk about their culture, their people. It's a professional social media platform for companies. So I would advise to have a LinkedIn profile, but only so that you can follow various companies that you're interested in, because they will share topical information about their industry. But more importantly than that, they will post on there all the different opportunities they have and when they're opening and closing. On opening and closing, just very quickly, if you are able to share with us your opening and closing, I appreciate everybody watching today could be in year 10 all the way through to year 13. So you're all at very different stages of figuring out what it is you want to do. Open and closing deadlines are really useful if you're right at that point where you want to make an application.
So our closing date for this year for the 2023 intake is the 28th of February. But please don't wait till the closing day. As soon as you are interested in a role, apply. When we get enough quality, quantity and diversity of applications, it's likely we may, in some cases, close the roles a bit early. So if you like it, apply. And
what would you say about LinkedIn in terms of them having a profile?
Have LinkedIn for a reason. Don't just have a profile just to try connect with an employer, or like Nicholas said, use it and engage with potential people you want to speak to, or follow the company for advice pre-interview, etc. But don't feel you need to have them, particularly at a school level. It's a professional network, so normally we will have a job. So if you are definitely going to apprenticeships, might be worth setting it up for future use, but don't just have it just to spam. Have it for a purpose.
Louise?
Yeah, so on applications, so we tend to open on the 1st of November, and we tend to close again at the end of February. LinkedIn, again, I think it's useful to have for the right reason. So to do your research, to follow things like apprenticeship pages or organisations that you're particularly interested in. Employers aren't going to search for you necessarily, so I wouldn't worry about setting one up. It's certainly not a prerequisite of having to apply, but if there are organisations you're interested in and you just want to do a bit of research, then it can be useful.
Nicholas, you've already told us how useful LinkedIn was for you.
Yeah. Well, I actually applied through LinkedIn 4.5 years ago now. It's also useful to know different types of jobs, really, because when I left university, I knew about a lot of jobs, but not a lot of jobs are very specific. So that helped me quite a bit. In terms of the closing dates, so our closing dates on the 26th of March, and I think the program starts on the 4th of September.
Great, and Brad?
So I think, again, as a lot of other people have said, LinkedIn can be used as a really, really good tool to connect with other apprentices or even graduates if you do decide to go to university. It's also really, really good to understand a little bit more about the culture of the organisation you're applying for, and then seeing the kind of things they value as well. So they can definitely become useful in assessment centres and interviews and so on like that. I would say for Lloyds, I believe a lot of the apprenticeships are on a rolling basis. So it could be that if you haven't applied just yet, some might have closed, but they are likely again to reopen in a couple of months' time as well. I would say definitely don't wait around and wait for them to reopen. Apply as quick as you can, just obviously so you're avoiding any disappointment if you were to miss the deadline.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to head over to our careers experts over here now for any advice for extracurricular activity. I know, Louise, you touched on head of debating societies and captains of football teams and things like that. Are there any other extracurricular things people can do, or maybe do short courses? Would you advise?
So I think there's a question if you're ever going to go for an MBA at Harvard. But they asked a question along the lines of, what have you decided to learn in the last 2 years and what progress have you made? So if you think of that question when writing your CV, one of my pet hates is on a CV just as a list of little mini things you've done. I read books, I socialise, I watch football. Think about on a CV, an application, or even an interview, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things you've actually done that you've really put a bit of effort in? So Have you decided to pick up playing football and you're constantly on the sidelines, or are you out getting your game every week? Have you started to learn a language, and if you progress through the levels in that, can you actually speak it now as well? So think about what you can put in your CV or an application form that shows you have got the ability to pick up something, learn it, and progress in it, showing that resilience and ability to progress yourself, not just be led by another organisation. So less is more, I suppose, in a way. Not as a don't bullet point loads of little things, pick out the key things and expand on them and show what you've learned in that space of time.
Yeah, I'd say things like where you've got involved maybe in teamwork. So again, you've either worked as part of a team or you've led a team. If you've been innovative, so some of the really good things we've seen is maybe where someone's, I don't know, done a piece of work or they've done some work experience and they might have identified something that wasn't working particularly well, and then they've made a suggestion and then that suggestion has changed. And that doesn't have to be particularly highbrow or really fancy. It might just be that, I think someone said they were doing work experience where they were doing something on Excel, and they were like, actually this Excel wasn't working particularly well, I can demonstrate how to do it better. So it was a very small change, but what that showed us was that it was the identifying the problem and coming up with the solution, and that's the type of thing that we will look for. So I think to your point, it's not just what are your hobbies, what types of things do you like, but more where can you demonstrate that you have done something that has made a difference as well. They're the types of things that will stand out on a CV.
And Nicholas, how did you stand out in your application via LinkedIn to BDO?
Guess we'd have to ask the person who interviewed me. But yeah, I would say, I don't think I had any hobbies or on my CV. I don't think so. I guess, yeah. So I'm doing interviews now. I'm interviewing people coming in, and hobbies and extracurriculum activities are only useful if for CV purposes if you're demonstrating you've been able to apply a skill, really. So I guess for debate, it's not really because you're going there, it's because you're putting yourself out there, you're happy to speak up. So it's more so what it tells people about their personality, and not because you've decided just for the purpose of applying for a job, just to start joining a society or joining a club, really.
And Brad, coming straight from school, it is really challenging. And I know a lot of young people are sat watching now thinking, well, I've not done any of that. I've got nothing that I could possibly put on a CV. What's your thoughts on that? Because you went straight from GCSE straight into your apprenticeship at Lloyds.
Yes, I actually took GCSEs and A-levels as well.
Oh, yeah, sorry. A-levels as well.
But I would say definitely one of the most important things that you can say to any assessment centre, and it's something that a lot of people would have experience with this as well, is communication. As long as you've been able to build upon those interpersonal skills where you can understand people, because at the end of the day, people are basically a business. You know, if you're looking at either your employees inside of a business, you're trying to emphasise with them, or your customers, it's still regarding emphasising with people. It is. So definitely communication, I think, is one of the biggest things if you haven't got as diverse and as rich of a work experience portfolio there. So. That's definitely one thing I would advise anyone to talk about in assessment centres or virtual interviews, etc. And I'll say the other thing is just to be curious, go into challenges as well. It is going to be a challenge moving from school where you won't necessarily have the same tasks on a daily basis when you go into work, but as long as you sort of go head on with those challenges and you do try your best at it, I think you should do very, very well.
That's great advice, thank you. Our last question, and I'm really squeezing this in. Somebody has asked about diversity in the office, and actually this is a industry-wide issue, isn't it? Trying to increase and equalise diversity across the whole banking and finance sector. How does your organisation support diversity? Brian.
So do these resource groups as well. As I said earlier, you can bring your whole self to work and you don't get judged or prejudged or evaluated based on any of your personal characteristics. I'd hate to see that happening even to myself. So just bring yourself to work. If you feel you have got what it takes to be successful in the industry, don't let anything hold you back. Go for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a totally level playing field, regardless of any background of anybody. We do have, and we focus very heavily at UBS on the DE&I kind of framework and all of the principles going forward as well. So it's something that we're constantly evaluating and making sure that we are I guess, kind of market leading in the practices that we implement for our employees as well. So I would hope that anybody that comes to work at UBS, again, feels like, I know we've said it a lot of times, but can bring their whole self to work. And actually, yeah, it's a total level playing field.
Thank you so much, everybody. And actually, that's the point I'd like to end on, because I think we have, over many years, built up so many misconceptions about what the banking and finance industry is. And actually, technology has radically changed this industry, just even over the last 5 years. And there's something coming out loud and clear in what we've talked about is bring your whole self to work and feel comfortable in your own skin and be part of a valued team as well, is the most important thing. You will be able to bring your expertise and your personality to the table, and that ultimately is what employers are looking for in interview processes as well, assessment centres, whether you do them in person or virtually. On that, it's great to practice as well, so do those practice tests. We are right out of time now. We didn't get through all the questions, and I'm so sorry about that, but in the resources packs, there is more information about our 4 employers here today. There's links to their careers pages on their websites, and there's some amazing FAQ pages on there as well. Lots of the employers are detailing future events that they're involved in, virtually as well, that you'll be able to take part in wherever you are in the country. And they're open and closing application deadlines and process as well. So thank you again for taking part. It's been great to hear your advice. The on-demand feed will be available shortly on this page, and we hope you really enjoyed today's session. Many thanks for taking part.